So it is after 1992 the concept of new public management has emerged. Alright. So but even before the emergence of this new public management, alright, there was a discussion, there was a kind of a philosophy or an opinion that got emerged, right, in the global arena, right, regarding a role of state. So even before this 1992, so it was Christopher Hood. It is Christopher Hood who has coined this term of new public management. The word new public management is coined by Christopher Hood. But even before this word came to existence, so there was an opinion formed. Regarding the role of state, right? Opinion formed regarding the regarding reduction in the role of state. Particularly by 1970s, right, an opinion was formed regarding reducing the role of state, because the scholars felt that the state is ineffective. The bureaucracy dominated state, the bureaucracy dominated public administration, the bureaucracy dominated governments. They are ineffective and unresponsive, right, in providing goods and services, right. So there was a well established opinion in every country, almost all, that is in every country here means particularly in the western world, in the western countries, that is in the western world, an opinion has formed that the government has failed, a bureaucracy led government has failed, a bureaucracy led public administration has failed in providing goods and services, right, providing goods and services with efficiency and economy. So government has failed to promote efficiency and economy in providing of goods and services. The reason for the failure of government is, what is the reason for the failure of government? What is the reason for the failure of government? Now in our school days we used to have one game. What is that game? In our school days we used to have one game, musical chairs. Okay. Now you have plenty of chairs, you can use them. Right? So what is the reason for the failure of bureaucracy? Why Swati is laughing? I think she got the reason now. Now why I talked about musical chairs? Okay. Why public administration has failed? Why bureaucracy led administration has failed? What is the reason for the failure of this public administration? So I am saying that by 1970s, right, in the western world, right, particularly in Western Europe as well as in America, right, the governments, the ruling governments have accepted that a bureaucracy led administration, a bureaucracy dominated public administration has failed. Now first of all, I want to know the reasons for the failure. What is the main reason for the failure of administration in providing of goods and services? What is the main reason for the failure of administration? It is bureaucracy. I am always using the word of bureaucracy led. The reason is in bureaucracy. Alright? The reason for the failure of state, the reason for the failure of governments, it is in bureaucracy. Alright? It is in the structural orientation of bureaucracy. Alright, so every country, almost all every country, right, which has followed traditional bureaucracies, every countries, right, which have followed traditional bureaucracy, they have failed to provide what we call goods and services efficiently and economically. This is one point. there was a kind of criticism against the governments, second thing, and the reason for the criticism is, right, growing burden of the state. By 1970s, remember, by 1970s, there was a growing economic burden. The government expenditure went on increasing. So practically saying, the government's financial expenditure increased. Governments have become bankrupt. Alright, so they have wasted all their resources. There was an ineffective usage of resources. There was what you call widespread corruption, inordinate delays in providing of goods and services. So all these were witnessed in every government, in every nation, even including countries like India. Even countries like India. So this was the situation, right? I'll use one is, there was a growing expenditure, a financial burden on the states, corruption, right, what do you call excessive delays, that is inordinate delays in providing of goods and services, ineffective mismanagement of resources, mismanagement of resources. So this was the state of affairs. So this was the state of affairs in almost all every country, both the Western countries as well as Asian countries. So this was the kind of situation that prevailed in almost all every country, including America and Britain. So it was these countries, right? It was these countries. They wanted to overcome this what you call challenges. Right, so 1980s posed a serious challenges onto public administration, particularly public administration dependence on bureaucracy. So now by 1980s, right, there was a doubt on a bureaucracy-led public administration, whether to rely on a bureaucracy or not, whether to follow, whether to use bureaucracy or not, using bureaucracy in promoting growth, development, using bureaucracy as an institution of providing goods and services. So by 1980s, because of this, because of expenditure, financial burden, increased corruption, delays, mismanagement, because of these factors, there was a question on bureaucracy, right? Question on bureaucracy, particularly in providing of public services, whether bureaucracy should be used as an institution or not. Alright, so now the only answer that came was the bureaucracy should not be that is, there should not be excessive dependency on bureaucracy. That is, the practicing administrators, the governments, the scholars, everyone felt that bureaucracy should not be the sole institution. There should not be excessive dependence on bureaucracy. So that means what? Along with bureaucracy, there should be, who should be used? Private sector, markets. So this is how the concept of marketization, the concept of privatization has emerged. Alright? So reducing the role of bureaucracy, reducing the role of public administration, and filling this gap by using private sector or markets. So by 1980s, an opinion was formed that there should be markets or private sector that should be used wherever possible. So wherever there is possible, right, the state should encourage usage of private sector and reduce the role of bureaucracy. If bureaucracy role is reduced, what will happen? What is the basic advantage of using markets or private sector?